Let me try that again. Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Zoom worship service. I'm Gwyn Reid, and I am your celebrant for today's service. Whether you're Zooming in from down the road, across the city, from another state, or across the ocean, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known or religious practices you embody, if any, you are welcome here. Whoever you love and however you identify, you are welcome here. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I want to take a moment to welcome those newcomers among us. We know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, and we're so glad you've joined us today. We invite you to introduce yourself in the chat so our community can warmly welcome you. And to fill out a newcomer card, we'll post a link in the chat so we can keep you up to date with all that is happening in our fellowship. We offer lots of options for gathering in virtual community, from meditation to yoga to social hours. And we also have a few upcoming events, and I want to highlight a couple of those. If you haven't signed up for one of our connection gatherings, we're calling them the connection dinners, there are still dates available in the coming weeks. These are online small group Zoom gatherings hosted by booth members to get us connected and excited for our upcoming annual giving drive. Those who sign up will receive goodie bags delivered to their home ahead of their scheduled date, complete with soup mixes, bread, and other gifts from the stewardship team. And at the gathering time, you can log into the Zoom meeting from the safety of your own home. Participants will share a virtual meal created from their goodie bags, connect with each other, and explore our hopes and dreams for the coming year. We'll put up a link for signing up in the chat. Also, our auction is coming up, and this year, like everything else, it is entirely online. Bidding will be open for a whole week, and we have a fun kickoff and closing events with musical entertainment and a takeout dinner option. Bidding takes place February 12th through February 21st. We have amazing items up for bid, including pies for each season, a fried chicken picnic for 6, a weekend in a Crouch, Idaho cabin, and of course, a one-of-a-kind George Reno ceramic globe totem. Our auction site goes live on February 5th for previews, so you'll have plenty of time to preview items before the bidding begins on February 12th. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for this special annual fundraiser. It is our practice here at the fellowship to donate a portion of our Sunday worship offering to support our social justice ministries. For the month of January, our social justice partner is the Learning Lab. Learning Lab works to empower those who imagine better lives for themselves and their children through the power of literacy. 25% of our unpledged offering will go to Learning Lab at the end of the month. We will have a special time in the service for you to make your contribution, but you can access our website to make your gift anytime during the service or after it. As we gather together, even virtually, we want to acknowledge that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral and unrelinquished land of the Shoshone-Bannock, Paiute, Nez Perce, and many other tribes who inhabited a vast region, including much of Idaho, before they were rounded up and forced to relocate to reservations in this region's versions of the Trail of Tears. We acknowledge that our presence here today is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous peoples. With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. In the challenges of these truths, May we move through the world bringing justice in every way that we can, listening to the truth spoken to us by Native American peoples, making space for them to re-inhabit this place and giving them back the resources they need to heal their communities. We continue to explore our monthly theme of imagination and how our imagination as people of faith is needed in the work of building the world as it might be. Speaking for myself, over the past 3 weeks, I have felt my emotions whipsawed from horror and despair to celebration and hope and back again. These times will require great imagination to bring about the healing that is so desperately needed for our nation. But I am buoyed by the affirmation and imagination of this nation's first ever youth poet laureate, Amanda Gorman, who, shining like the sun on Inauguration Day, told us, quote, "We will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one," end quote. Today we explore the theme of imagination through a slide sermon by artist and congregation member Mark McGinnis that encourages nurturing the imagination that resides within all of us. I'll note that our minister, Reverend Lawal, is on a much needed day off today. I want to thank the others who are involved in supporting today's service: our music director, Carrie Bastian, our religious exploration coordinator, Emerson Paige, whose name has become synonymous with Wonder Board, today's tech host, Lori Watson, and thanks to Nancy for preparing the service slides for today and for leading the ushering efforts, and Blake McCallum joins Nancy as an usher today. Let us take a moment to breathe together. Fill your body with breath, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to our bodies, and to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune in to our spiritual center, to listen deeply to our heart's own longing. As I read the words to our familiar poem by Reverend Kendall Gibbons, I invite you to think of the thous and thines in her poem as the imagination that resides in you. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp that lights where I tread. Thy way is steep past the perils of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
been a long, dark night, and I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine, 'cause I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out fine. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.
Clear blue morning, clear blue morning, clear
Light of a clear blue, 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 I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light. Clear blue morning. I can see the light. Clear blue morning. I can see the light. Blue, blue morning.
Beautiful. Each week, we light our flaming chalice, a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We join in this lighting in solidarity and community with thousands of other Unitarian Universalists lighting chalices today in homes and in virtual worship services throughout our nation and the world, reminding us that we are connected to one another and to a larger community of faith and love. We welcome back our young chalice lighters who ground us in our hope for a brighter future, even in the darkest of times. If you have a chalice nearby, you are invited to light it along with chalice lighter Kennedy Victorino. As she lights the candle from her home, you are invited to share in the chat where you have lit your chalice this morning. With our collective chalices lit in all our spaces, we offer you this call to worship from Reverend Gretchen Haley. It starts here, in this moment, in this breath you feel rising in your chest, this beat building between us, the healing, the hunger, the hope, the courage, the calling, the commitment, the drawing out of a new day.
It begins now, in the imagination, in this story we weave together, this song we sing, this prayer we bring into being, from our hearts to our lips, from our hands to our life, our shared life.
It starts here with praise and thanksgiving, forgiveness, and this humble, centering confession that we could be wrong. This promise that we make to keep learning, to keep trying, to keep our sense of humor, to keep close this knowing that we are all in this together.
Come, let us begin. Come, let us worship together.
I invite everyone to cozy up this morning for our time for all ages. I am curious, when was the first time that you noticed that your family does things differently than other families? Maybe you realized that only your family has an extra special meal, like a pozole rojo or a root vegetable roast. You do it a little different than other families. Or maybe you have a special celebration, like water communion, or having one party for both your grandma and a cousin that no one else in your class or your neighborhood has. Do you know the story of how your family came into this special thing that's different from other families? Our story this morning is going to help us think about what is special about our own family and our roots, and how we can celebrate and respect something special about another family. It is Yo Soy Muslim, a father's letter to his daughter. It is by Mark Gonzalez, and it is illustrated by Merdocht Amini. And the illustrations are beautiful. Here's the front and back. I love a pretty cover. It has been said, if you climb a tree to the very top and laugh, your smile will touch the sky. If you stay overnight in that tree, then you will learn to count stars like dreams. Inside cities, where skyscrapers cloud the view of everything above, walk in the steel shadows and remember the Mayan pyramids that too lived among the heavens. Can you imagine what this land looked like before our big steel and concrete buildings? What do you think humans used to see before our city lights and skyscrapers? There are questions that we all ask when we are learning what it means to be human. Who invented my hands? Why wasn't I born with wings? And does the moon ever get lonely? There are questions this world will ask. What are you, and where are you from? there will come a day when some people in this world will not smile at you. Why do you think that is? That's a hard feeling, huh? To not be greeted kindly. On that day, you tell them this: Yo soy Muslim. I am from Allah, angels, and a place almost as old as time. I speak Spanish, Arabic, and dreams. Mi mamá creates life. Mi abuelo worked the fields. My ancestors did amazing things, and so will I. No matter what they say, know that you are wondrous, a child of crescent moons, a builder of mosques, a descendant of brilliance, and an ancestor in training. Say it with me. Yo soy Muslim. Our prayers were here before any borders. Yo soy Muslim, and the deserts hold the secrets of souls. Yo soy Muslim. Hummingbirds send blessings with their wings. Yo soy Muslim. If you listen closely to the drum, you can hear God. Dance, smile, laugh, pray. Say it with me. Yo soy Muslim. Yo soy Muslim. By those who dance with the wind, smile at the sun, laugh in the rain, and pray. That is such a beautiful book. I wonder, who are you and where are you from? How did your family come to this place, Treasure Valley, Ada County, Idaho, the lands of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Paiute people? What is something important that your family has taught you? Maybe a lesson of kindness or generosity. Maybe something you don't like about how your family has done things, you decided to do differently. There's lots of room for both blessings and lessons in our lives. What kind of wonder or connection to the spirit of love, the spirit of life, can we receive from our roots and the stories of where we are from? In our story, the protagonist and her family are indigenous to Turtle Island, and her dad cautions her against people who will be unkind because of who she is. What are some ways that you can make sure that your heart and your mind are open to showing love and respect for other families' history and beauty? This morning, we are having our Back to Children's Chapel. So after our song or during our song, go ahead and join me in the link that is going to be on the screen and in the chat. And we will do our own interactive worship. We will answer some of these questions and we will play a game. Thank you all so much.
May your mind be open to new learning.
lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Thank you, Jem. I loved that story. Every time we hear a story, I learn something new. Now I'm thinking I'm an ancestor in training. What a wonderful thought. When we give, we say yes to something we value. We say yes to supporting the greater good. We say yes to saving what we love. We take up an offering each week to say yes to the values of our UU faith and yes to the self-sustaining ministries of this fellowship and the ministry of our monthly plate partner. Together, we use these gifts to serve with ever greater love. Sometimes we cannot imagine that we can affect the world, that we can create a beloved community. Sometimes we despair that it is all beyond us, but when we give, we demonstrate our faith. We say yes to supporting this congregation. We say yes to realizing in our actions the 8 principles we say we value. We say yes to our community partners, and today we say yes to Learning Lab, an organization that exists to empower those who imagine better lives for themselves and their children through the power of literacy. The offering will now be gratefully received. Our reading this morning is from Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. Only it is so very lonely here, Alice said in a melancholy voice. And at the thought of her loneliness, 2 large tears came rolling down her cheeks. "Don't go on like that," cried the poor queen, wringing her hands in despair. "Consider what a great girl you are. Consider what a long way you've come today. Consider what o'clock it is. Consider anything, only don't cry." Alice could not help laughing at this, even in the midst of her tears. "Can you keep from crying by considering things?" she asked. "That's the way it's done," the queen said with great decision. "Nobody can do 2 things at once, you know. Let's consider your age to begin with. How old are you?" "I'm 7.5 exactly." "You needn't say exactly," the queen remarked. I can believe it without that. Now, I'll give you something to believe. I'm just 101, 5 months and a day." "I can't believe that," said Alice. "Can't you?" the queen said in a pitying tone. "Try again. Draw a long breath and shut your eyes." Alice laughed. "There's no use trying," she said. "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare say you haven't had much practice," said the queen. "When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast."
Hello, friends. The root of the word imagination comes from the Latin for image. The suffix of that word, ation, means action or process, and also from the Latin. The dictionary definition of imagination follows very closely to that. The faculty of the mind which forms and creates images. Imagination is sometimes synonymous with or attached to the terms and concepts of originality and creativity. The 4 works you see on your screen are by Andy Goldsworthy. He's a British sculptor, and these are 4 of his constructions, his ephemeral constructions meant to go back to nature in a short amount of time and be documented with photography. Some of you may be familiar with his work. That tree that you see up in our upper left is actually, that glow around it is created by autumn leaves that he has graduated out from the base of the tree itself. So it looks like it's just glowing. You can see the technique a little better down in that one on the lower right side where you see the leaves in that very graduated, careful process of his. How he got that black center, I really don't know. Up above it is a spiral on the beach created with those beautiful white stones. And on the lower left, you have shards of rock that come together into that little more foreboding image there. I first came into contact with Andy Goldsworthy's work several decades ago, and it was a revelation to me. It seemed the perfect vision of what art can be in a time of environmental collapse. It is work that is rich in craftsmanship and design, 2 qualities I greatly admire. It is also work that transcends itself in drawing us to the beauty that is in nature, waiting for us to discover. You go beyond an appreciation of just Goldsworthy's work, and you see the beauty that is around us. In these works, Andy Goldsworthy uses the three qualities I discussed in my definition. They are certainly imaginative. In the works, we see images that were first constructed in the artist's mind and made manifest. We see creation of something that he used skill and imagination to produce and are new and original. But how creative and original are they? Certainly, we see there were other artists such as Robert Smithson, who also used natural materials from the area to create wonderful things such as spiral jetty. This is found in the Great Salt Lake, not too far from us. And it's not ephemeral in that nature does not take it back, but eventually it may. But it does submerge into the lake and be exposed again, determined by the level of the lake itself. But we can go back farther than that for Andy Goldsworthy's inspirations. And we come to the Australian Aboriginally dream or songline art. This is artwork that symbolically describes and marks the travel journey of the ancestral spirits as they create the land and culture. And for the Aborigines, this isn't a thing of the past. This is a thing of the present that needs to be done time and time again, possibly started 30,000 years ago. But it's not simply people even that create this work of natural objects in their environment as art. The bowerbird from Australia and New Guinea is another great example of a creative artist that produces his wonderful bower. And this is an exceptional example. From his natural environment, just like Andy Goldsworthy, he collects items and forms these remarkable assemblages with his bower, his impressive bower that he has in the background there. Now, he doesn't do this specifically to be artistic objects. He is trying to lure a mate and have a propagation of the species. And with this fella, I can't imagine that he wasn't remarkably successful. Does all these predecessors I've shown you diminish the work of Andy Goldsworthy? No, because all works of art have predecessors. Imagination, creativity, and originality are influenced by the individual's experience. It can't happen without it. And this is true of all forms of art. Dance, music, literature, drama, film, and more all have influences of what came before them. This does not lessen those who creatively build on what has gone before. This is from Lascaux Cave in France. It is said by some that the last truly original painting was done on a cave wall, and artists have been building on that painting ever since. Notice the little geometry above the horse. While this sense of one lineage is an exaggerated concept, there is still some truth in it. I cannot resist showing you this very recently discovered Neolithic wonder created 12,000 years ago. It is being called the Sistine Chapel of the Ancients. Discovered last year, it consists of tens of thousands of paintings and symbols on nearly 8 miles of cliff face. Did the painters of this marvel come up with the art and pictographs themselves as creative acts? Oh, probably not, as they may have evolved over centuries. But there may have certainly been some painters who improved on their predecessors. Note the geometry again, so prevalent. 5 years ago, I decided to switch from the content-oriented direction of my work that had occupied me for 35 years and turned to the geometric. My intent has been to make paintings without recognizable subject matter that gives the viewer a new visual experience. I give little thought to imagination or creativity in making my art. The work seems more evolved than imagined. Throughout my career, each painting within a series leads to the next. This is the first section of that triptych. It's 2 by 3 feet. And here is a detail, surface detail. I've had a long running love affair with texture and color. While imagination, of course, is not limited to the arts, science, religion, medicine, business, government, law, transportation, on and on, evolve through imagination. Albert Einstein said that imagination was more important than knowledge. This is a bold statement in a world so focused on knowledge. But without imagination, knowledge is stagnant. The growth of knowledge needs imagination for innovation, insight, and transformation. In Einstein, we see the perfect example. He often used visual thought experiments from his imagination to give himself insights that he would use to form ideas that revolutionized physics. The imagination leads to knowledge. Imagination is the domain of every human being that has walked on this planet, and probably other living creatures as well. It is not unusual to hear someone say, "I have no imagination." That is simply not true. I don't think people could function if they had absolutely no imagination. Our minds are image-making machines. Thoughts are many times accompanied by images which often pass unnoticed as we have become more attentive to the words we generate rather than the images. When we say we are thinking, we most often generate both words and images. Before children develop speech, their lives and images, sounds, touch, taste, and smells. Images are a primary way they experience life, and images not associated with words. They are little vacuums of sensory experience. They are creating a stockpile of sensory information in their minds. Do they create wordless imagined images? I don't know, but it would seem to be a logical thing for them to do with this pile of information they're gathering. It may be that imagination is a pre-existing aspect of human nature. In the technologically dominated world in which we live now, imagery is created by the vast array of visual media that our children consume. To some degree, this has been true for a long time in the past 5 decades. This has increased to such an extent that little imagination is left in entertainment. Someone else creates the imagery that we now simply consume. A quote from Margaret Atwood's astonishing trilogy, Mad Adam, is, quote, "They spent the first 3 years of school getting you to pretend stuff, and the rest of it marking you down if you did the same thing," end quote. While this blanket condemnation of education has many exceptions, it is nevertheless has some truth. As the education of our children progresses, there does seem to be less and less encouragement of imaginative thinking. Even in the arts, where I spent 30 years, it was very obvious that many students had lost much of their imaginations by the time they reached me at the age of 18 or 19. They had been encouraged and rewarded for simply reproducing existing images and being praised if their skills doing so improved. Imagination was minimal. It often took years to convince them that imagination was more important than technical skill. Reading is a tremendous stimulation for the imagination. When only words are present, it is our job to create images. No two people who read a book have the same experience, because although the words are the same, our imagination and experience makes the content our own. The bad news is that in 2016, the US average of personal interest reading was 17 minutes a day. The villain again is, of course, technology, and all delivered by a supercomputer that fits in our hand. Another way of expressing John Lennon's thought that reality leaves a lot to the imagination is that imagination expands reality. Imagination can shape and transform reality, as the Beatles certainly did. An area in which imagination can reach most of us is dreaming. Even though we might think so, dreams do not come from outside ourselves. They are composed of that vast stockpile of experiences and images that are stored in our brain. Whether we remember them or not, they can be put together in some very strange ways. Without imagination, no dreams. Dreams are a kind of unbidden imagination, where our minds create stories for us from the sublime to the horrific. Daydreaming is not as uncontrolled as night dreaming. It is a brief or not so brief exit from the reality of the day, where imagination takes over for a while and we are transported to an experience and imagery our minds provide. Our educational system has not overtly encouraged daydreaming, but that attitude has changed in some of the business world today. Daydreaming is encouraged as a portal to innovative thinking and relaxation that enhances productivity. Letting your imagination take you to daydream breaks might be the most creative thing you do all day. Everyone does have an imagination, but in our culture, that imagination may not be nurtured. There are many ways that imagination can be rejuvenated. And yes, when I was driving through the Vermilion Cliffs, there was a white raven in the clouds, almost that distinct. Here is a short list of ways that you can cultivate your imagination. A list of 9. Number 1, you can simply imagine a task in your mind before you do it. An imaginary rehearsal. This may not only exercise your imagination, but also improve the result of the task in hand. Number 2, visualize new constructive habits to replace bad habits. Before you indulge in that poor habit, visualize the positive one. It may provide the distance needed to change. Number 3, very short, read more, as we just talked about. And number 4, also, let yourself daydream. Number 5, make something. Art, cooking, woodworking, sewing, writing, gardening, and so on. Make something and let your imagination be part of the process. Number 6, sit quietly. This can be done in many ways, and I find it stimulating for my imagination. Number 7, gain new knowledge and skills. Learning is fertile ground for the imagination. Number 8, do puzzle games. Figure things out. To be honest, I do that one very poorly. Number 9, and my favorite, expand your perception and experience. Look more closely at your environment, whether the natural world or your living room or a gas pump. When possible, have new experiences. Travel, play, go to museums, try a new sport, and so on. New perception and new experiences create a new stockpile for the imagination to draw from. All of these 9 ways to expand imagination are also 9 ways to keep your brain healthy and to avoid stagnation and decay of the brain that can plague us in elder years. What a bonus. The imagination should be the center of your life. So says a giant of imagination, Ray Bradbury. It should certainly be a larger part of our life, imagination. There is no doubt that an increased imaginative life will enhance your experience of life. Your life will be more fulfilling. And the beauty of this, it is not something external that you bring into your life. It is something within you, within yourself, that you bring out. You only need to cultivate and activate it.
Thank you, Mark. That was a very imaginative way to deliver a sermon. Each week we take time to acknowledge the many joys and passages among us and to grieve our many sorrows and losses, so that we might lift that burden for each other and receive the blessing of this community. I have two sorrows to share with the community. Roger Sherman's mother, Sulochana Sherman, died last night at age 92. Please hold Roger, Kathy, and their daughters and family in your thoughts and prayers. And Diana Barrera Lowe's comadre, Renee Steinberg, the mother of Diana's son-in-law, died on December 23rd. Please keep Diana and her family in your thoughts and prayers. As we receive the healing balm of music, please feel invited to write your joys and sorrows into the chat box and take a moment to read the items that are shared.
Hello, you family. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up. Yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up. Oh, hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please hold me close. Oh, shine on me, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Oh, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on all you have to do is just ask. The light is always there. Always. Always.
We hold the joys and sorrows of our beloved community alongside the silent prayers we hold close to our hearts, gathered up with the joys and sorrows of our nation and our world. We hold them all close, breathing them in and sending forth love. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation with these words from Reverend Kelly Wiseman, Asproth Jackson. Dear great lathe of heaven, O foundry of souls, you churning, burning cosmos which has wrought us on the infinite loom of your celestial body, spinning stars and indifferent stones, hear our prayer. Do not curse us to perish with all our dreams fulfilled. Do not afflict us with a vision so narrow and hearts so small that all our greatest hopes could be accomplished within our lifetimes. Rather, bless us with an unquiet spirit. Anoint us with impertinent oils. Grant us dreams so great and numerous that we might spend the fullness of our days to realize them and have ample remaining to leave to our inheritors. Holy vortex that bore us and must one day take us home, allow us the mercy to depart this life with unfinished business. Amen.
This is my land, esta es mi tierra. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es para ti, para mí. Esta es tu tierra, esta es mi tierra. Desde California hasta Nueva York, desde las montañas a todos los mares. Esta tierra es para ti, para mí. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es para ti, para mí. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands over diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es para ti, para mí. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es para ti, para mí.
Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking to that freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es para ti y para mí. Sí, señor.
As I went walking, I saw a big sign, and on that big sign said no trespassing. But on the other side, it didn't say nothing. This sign was made for you and me. Este land was para ti, para mí. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking to that freedom highway. Nobody living can make
I invite you to place your hands over your heart for our closing blessing from Michael A. Schuler. We have reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. Shall it be concluded then, or will this adventure now commenced continue in the quest for love more perfect? Is this ending to be an ending or merely prelude to new, more glorious beginnings? I pose the question. In your hearts and imaginations lies the answer.